find the labeled side length, so that's x. I'm not entirely sure what the options are to put here, because it could mean a few things. So when this is the given angle, you have choices here. You have SO, CA, TOA. Have you seen this before, sine, cosine, and tangent?
Yeah.
Okay, so in this case, relative to this angle, you're trying to find the opposite side, and you have the hypotenuse. So this is the sine of 56 equals opposite is x over 12. So when it says trig ratio, I mean, it could mean literally anything. It could be what I've just boxed in. It could be I don't know, opposite over adjacent. I really don't know what they want here. The next box is very clear. So do you have any idea?
Uh, Wait for the first one,
Yeah, like
or
what do they want there?
they just I think something like that, like what you box, just like the equation you use to find x.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, okay, we know what goes there. To solve this for x, you have to get rid of the 12 here on the bottom. So you multiply both sides by 12, and that cancels the 12 there. Is that okay? I wasn't sure if you followed that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can put this into your calculator. Make sure it's in degrees, and that's a 12 times sine d 56. I'm sorry, sine in degrees, and it says rounded 2 decimal places. I get 9.95.
All right.
Well, and also, I guess if you have any clarity on what goes into that first box, let me know, because I do still feel like I'm kind of at a loss for what exactly to put there. Um,
I don't really know what to put there now,
yeah,
but
I'm not sure either. The trig ratio could be. I mean, it has a keyboard here, so that's why it's a little bit odd. I mean, in the past, sometimes um, you've been able to enter an answer and see what comes out. I don't really know. This is if we just had one example, we could get through it. Okay, well, so here the given angle is right here, and x here is adjacent, and then this is the hypotenuse. And again, that's so Katoa. You probably have that already in your written down. But here you're going to use cosine. Cosine of 48 equals the adjacent side, which is x over 25.
so is that the equation you write every time? Like you do
You use one of these, sine, cosine, or tangent,
and then you put the
whatever's in.
given angle.
Yeah, it's the given angle, but you can also use it to solve for the angle. So there's some like forwards and backwards questions. Here the side isn't known, but sometimes the angle isn't known. They give you two sides. So to solve this, you would multiply both sides by 25. 25 cosine 48 equals x.
Wait, can you show how you would multiply that by 25?
Yeah, I did sort of skip that step here. So let me make it clear. So what you're doing is you can write the left side as being over 1, okay? Because anything is over 1. Um, the right you multiply by 25, the left you multiply by 25, and those cancel out. So it just becomes 25 cosine 48 equals x. And again, your calculator has to be in degrees. Once it's in degrees once, you're good. But if you going between classes, it's easy to actually have the wrong mode in. 16.73 is the answer here.
All right, I got that.
All right, great. So let's see, we got to keep going here. Let's see if the next question's pretty similar. Yeah, this one's pretty similar. So why don't you try this one on your, well, it's a different trig function, but it is the same idea. So maybe we'll just start with that. What trig function, what trig function would you use here? So you're given this angle right here, x is opposite, it's across, but it's opposite, and then 30 is adjacent. Which trig function uses the opposite and adjacent?
Tan.
Tangent. So tangent of 23 degrees equals the opposite, which is x, over the adjacent, which is 30. Okay, so to solve for x here, you treat this as being over 1, and you multiply both sides by 30. X equals 30 tangent 23. That is 12.73.
I don't know if the thing's wrong, but I put that in and it said it was wrong.
For the answer?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just round to 1 decimal place this time. So that's
Oh.
12.7.
Oh yeah. Right.
Okay, can we keep going here, or is there?
Yeah, I got.
Okay. All right. So we are okay. This next question here, I'm assuming this is a right triangle. It doesn't have the right triangle indicator, which is bad. But so like this should be the right angle here, I guess. I mean, I like it. This seems like it's the right way to go. So we're gonna do that. So relative to this angle, okay, x right over here. This is on the hypotenuse. This 40 is in the opposite because it's across means opposite in this case. Um, which trig function uses the opposite in the hypotenuse?
Cosine.
Sine. So it's the SOHCAHTOA here again. I'll just
Oh
write it
yeah.
out again. Opposite over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, opposite over adjacent. You want to write that down until you got it kind of pretty clear for you. We always use 3 letters for trig functions for some reason. I don't know why. This is 40 over x. So this one is solved differently. It's not necessarily any harder. It's just a different set of steps. So the only way to get a variable out of the bottom here is to cross multiply. So you're going to cross multiply and cross multiply here. So that's x sine 38 equals 40 times 1. So that's x sine 38 equals 40. So that just gets the x out of the bottom. Now, this sine 38 is a number, so you can divide by it. Whatever that number is, you can divide by sine 38 over sine 38. X equals 40 over sine 38.
Wait, how like on the first step, how come it wouldn't be like X over 40. How come that's 40 over X then?
Okay, let's yeah, that's quite a few steps back. So let's look at 38 here. Opposite. What is opposite to 38?
40.
40. So that's why the opposite goes in the top. That's why 40 is on the top here. The h is on the bottom. The h in this case is x.
Oh, I see. I see what you
So it's
did
not.
with
So
the.
the mistake is to think x is always on the top or always on the bottom. It's not. It could be. It totally could be, but it's not.
All right. And then can you go over like the cross multiply thing? What you did?
Yeah. Let's just restart. Let's just restart here. These steps here, so that we just do them again. So the sine of 38 equals 40 over x. Okay. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this. Really the best way is to cross multiply, meaning diagonally multiply. So like the sine 38, you multiply by x, and this 40 you multiply by 1. It's called cross multiplication. And it's really diagonal multiplication, but so that's x sine 38 equals 40. Okay. And then this sine 38 is a number. Like if you punch that in your calculator, you get a number. So when you have two things squeezed together, they're multiplying each other. To undo multiplication, you divide. You can do it symbolically, meaning like without putting into your calculator by just writing division, sine 38 divided on both sides. I mean, it just cancels out as a result. Whenever you divide something by itself, it cancels out. So 40 over sine 38. So give this a go in your calculator. It's important that you be able to get these numbers out. This one, does it say to round to 1 or 2 decimal places? 2 decimal
That's
places.
two.
Yeah. So this is 64.97.
All right, I got that.
Great. Okay. Next question here. It's a story problem. It's got a picture of a flagpole, but it's still a right triangle. So let's see here. Get that snipped in. All right, so we got this question snipped in here. At a point 20 meters from a flagpole, that's where this 20 is, the angle of elevation, it's always the angle that comes up from the ground is the angle of elevation. It's 50 degrees tall. How tall is the flagpole? So this could be just like a problem we did previously, except they phrase it with words. But still, relative to this angle, what is x and what is 20? We got opposite and we got adjacent. So which trig function do you use when you have opposite and adjacent?
Tangent.
Tangent. So it's the tangent of the angle, 50, equals what's opposite? Well, we got to decide, is it x or 20? Well, we said it was x. And then adjacent is 20. And then we're going to solve for x.
So this is when you multiply by 20, right?
Yeah, now effectively you're doing the same thing. You're cross multiplying or diagonally multiplying. So let me just explain that, because it is really the same thing. 20 tangent 50. And what is x times 1? Well, it's just x. So it is effectively the same thing here. It's more effective when x is in the bottom to diagonally multiply. Let me know when I can move on to the next one.
Yeah, I got that.
Great. Frustrating that we haven't figured out what to put into the write out your trig ratio, because I'm sure it's marking you wrong or not giving you feedback on that.
No, it's just not giving me feedback. Like it's not
Yeah.
going.
Okay, so relative to this angle, okay, what sides are you given?
Opposite and
Opposite
adjacent.
and adjacent, yeah. Okay, now, so that means we use tangent. Tangent of 45 equals opposite 17 over adjacent. So we did this in two problems ago. You diagonally multiply x tangent 45 equals 17 times 1. X tangent 45 equals 17. And then you divide both sides by tangent 45. So divide this by tangent 45, divide this by tangent 45. X equals 17 over tangent 45. Now I want you to punch that in your calculator, and when you see your answer, you decide if you maybe could have known that ahead of time.
Wait, it says 17.
17 up top. Yeah, it's just 17, right?
Yeah.
Well, what kind of triangle is this? Well, it's a special triangle. It's a 45, 45, 90. And we know that whatever one leg is, well, the other has to be the same. So if this is 17, well, this must be 17 as well.
All right. All right, I got that.
Great. All right. Ooh. Okay, so we've got this next question here. So the next question here is also a special triangle, but you can solve it using trig, meaning sine, cosine, and tangent. But we're gonna I'll point that out when we're done. Maybe if the answer was like, oh, I should have known that. Actually, this one doesn't work out very nicely. So relative to this angle, 30, x is opposite and 10 is adjacent. So we're using tangent again. Tangent of 30 equals the opposite angle over the adjacent. When you solve for x here, you're gonna do the same thing. You can multiply both sides by 10, but that is effectively diagonally multiplying. You get 10 tangent 30 equals x.
All right, I got that.
Okay. All right. So then, last question for this one. This one requires you to draw a picture. First one where they don't give you a picture. All right. So I want you to see if you can draw the picture here. I'm just going to step away for 30 seconds and be right back. But it's going to look a lot like the one we did a couple problems ago that said angle of elevation. So give that a try. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, so we have an ant looking up at you. This is the angle of elevation here. And it says you are 5 feet tall. So you're here. And we want to know how far the ant is from your foot. So it's like you're standing here. Oops. There's your ant. I don't know how you make an ant, something like that. And then you're just trying to find this right here. So relative to this angle, 5 is opposite and x is adjacent. So we use tangent. A tangent of 24 degrees equals the opposite side, which is 5, over x, which is, or the adjacent side, which is x. Here we've talked about this, length here. You either are diagonally multiplying or you're multiplying by the bottom thing, which in this case is x. So if you multiply both sides by x, I know this is different than what we've seen, those cancel. But it's the same thing as multiplying over here by x because x comes out in front. So x tangent 24 equals 5. Tangent 24 is a number. So you divide both sides by tangent 24. X equals 5 over tangent 24. So we get 11.23.
All right,
Okay.
I got that.
So we got all those done. What else would you like to work on today?
I think I'll send it. I think it's. Wait, I might be able to do this on my own. Yeah, there's just more of this, so I'm gonna send the other one. Wait. Oh, here we go. It's like the same thing, but with word problems.
Okay. So for the most part, you're going to be setting up triangles and then solving for them like we did just now.
Yeah. All right, I sent it again.
Okay. Checking. Thanks again for the referral. I don't know if I thanked you yet for that. I guess it was your friend. I appreciate that. His setup was slightly different than yours, but you guys, most people having some trouble here. Okay, so we got some questions here. I'm just gonna do them in the order they come in, unless. Yeah, oh, they got a cornhole picture. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll just keep working through these. it would be good for you to do some of these on your own, but I mean, we've got the time here, so I don't have any problem working through them. But for your learning, that would definitely be preferred here. Fireman's 25-foot ladder is leaning up against a house. So this is 25. It is 19 feet from the base of the house. So this is 19. What angle does the ladder make with the ground? So they're asking for this angle here. This is the Greek symbol theta. Theta is used for angles a lot, so we're going to use that today. All right. Now, if I gave you this angle, this is the backwards question because you're used to getting the angle. If I give you the angle, what is 19? Well, it's adjacent, and 25 is the hypotenuse. So which of those three trig functions uses the adjacent and the hypotenuse?
Cosine.
Cosine. So cosine of that angle, which I'm going to call theta. If you don't like theta, we can switch it in the next problem to x. The adjacent side is 19, and the hypotenuse is 25. So we're used to there being a letter here, but there's not. The variable is here. This is the variable. Okay, so you might not know what to do, or you might say, well, this is done. We have to undo cosine. We have to undo, either sine, cosine, or tangent. And you do that with cosine inverse, sine inverse, tangent inverse. So it looks like this. If you take the cosine inverse of cosine of theta, and you have to do this to both sides of the equation. Okay, so from this line right here, come down here, you take the cosine inverse of both sides. Okay, and on the left side, what this does is it resolves or undoes the angle. So theta is the cosine inverse of 19 over 25. Now this is something you can put into your calculator. If you have a scientific calculator, you can just find that button for it. If you need help with that, I could try to help you find it. But it's usually the second button and then cosine. Make sure your calculator's in degrees, and it's 40.54 degrees. Oh, it says one decimal place, so 40.5 degrees. Were you able to
Yeah, I got that.
confirm that? Okay, great. Sometimes that's very unclear. I'm glad you got it on the first question because it really does make a huge difference here. Okay, another question about fireman's ladder. Fireman's ladder. I had a fireman interaction with one recently, and they actually still get like cats out of trees, believe it or not. I was like shocked. The guy was telling me. So here, ladder's leaning against the house again, but it makes an angle of 60 degrees with the ground. So that's there. How long is the ladder if it is 8 feet from the base of the house? So the length of the ladder is right here. And I prefer using letters like L because I know it says X, but L is, to me, is more indicative of a ladder, but we can use X if that's unclear. So relative to this angle, what is 8? What is L? Well, this is adjacent. This is hypotenuse. So that's cosine. Cosine of 60, the angle is given this time, equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. How do we get the variable out of the bottom? Well, we diagonally multiply. L cosine 60 equals 8 times 1. L cosine 60 equals 8. Divide both sides by cosine 60, and you get your answer. You get 8 over cosine 60. When you punch that into the calculator, don't be too surprised about your answer. Should be 16.
Oh yeah,
That's because this
45.
is it's a 30, 60, 90. It's got some properties I think we discussed last time, but definitely something to think about, when you're doing these problems. Okay, so let's go to the next question here. Hopefully it's not a fire. Oh, it's a dog chasing out of a tree. These are so ridiculous. Especially if you're used to living in Arizona, you're like, nobody climbs trees around here. Okay, this is the tree, obviously. The dog is standing 3 feet from the tree. The cat is 14 feet up the tree. They want the angle of elevation. So that's theta here, theta or x, whatever you like. This is a right triangle. I should have drawn that in. Okay, relative to this angle, 14 is across, but that's opposite, not adjacent. The 3 is adjacent. Adjacent means next to. Tangent of theta equals the opposite, which is 14, over the adjacent, which is 3. So just like 2 problems ago, the way to undo the trig function here is to use the inverse function of it. So and you do it to both sides. It's the tangent inverse of tangent of theta equals tangent inverse of 14 over 3. So these have to pair up. Like you do one to one side, one to the other. On the left, it undoes tangent to give you just the angle. And what you really care about is, okay, I got to put this into my calculator and get a number out. So let's see, 14 over 3 says to round to 1 decimal place. So I get 77.9 degrees. Seems somewhat reasonable because it's really tall, the tree, compared to how far the cat is away from it. So it would be pretty steep angle.
So, like, could I just like write the right part of the equation every time instead of doing like all the other steps? Because that's what we're doing in class.
Yeah, so I'm giving you like full information. Here's how I would have you solve this problem. Tangent theta equals 14 over 3. Theta equals tan inverse 14 over 3. Is that what
All
you're doing
right.
in class?
Yeah.
Yes. Some people I work with, they want everything. Some just want to cut right through it and say, what do I need to know? And that's what I'm hearing from you. So we'll just do that for the rest of the problems here. All right, this is, I wonder if your instructor wrote this. Frustrated young math student, whatever. These are weird. Okay. Went to the top of a 300-foot cliff. So we assume that 300 feet is the height, and through their geometry book as hard as they could. If the angle of depression, which is such a weird name, this is the angle of depression, by the way, it's this one right here. And because this line is parallel to this line, the angle of depression is congruent to the angle of elevation. So like if they give you this number, you immediately put it here. If they give you this number, you immediately put it there. How far from the base of the cliff did it land? So they want X. They want X right there. So relative to this angle, this is adjacent and this is opposite. So which trig function are we using?
Tangent.
Tangent again. Tangent 72 equals 300 over X. Now, at some point here, you might realize that when X is on the bottom, all you're doing is swapping positions of these two. So X is equal to 300 over tangent 72. You end up just swapping positions, which is totally okay. It's the net result of what you did. What does it say? How many decimal places does it ask for? 1 decimal place. Okay. 97.5 whatever's feet. Let me know when I can move on to the next question here.
Yeah, you can go. I got that.
All right, so this one is about Juliet and a helicopter. Juliet is flying a helicopter that's flying 1,000 feet above her house. That's the height. She's directly 1,500 feet from the helicopter. Okay, so she's that's weird. It reads weird. She's directly 1,500 feet. So the helicopter. This is weird. So she's over here because they rarely give you this length. That would be like some sort of straight line, but she's saying she's 1,500 feet from the helicopter. Right. So now they want the angle of elevation. That's this one. It's the same as the angle of depression. That's this one. So again, you're given the opposite and the adjacent. So the tangent of theta equals 1,000 over 1,500. Theta equals the tangent inverse of 1,000 over 1,500. Let's see if we can get that. So I get, it says one decimal place, I get 33.7 degrees. I would submit that part if you can. I don't know if it allows you to do that, but
Yeah, it says it's wrong.
okay. So it could be that this is 1,500 degrees, 1,500 feet. It's really unclear. And then we would use a different trig function to find this. So none of this would be correct. It would be the opposite over the hypotenuse. We would say sine of theta equals 1,000 over 1,500. Theta equals sine inverse 1,000 over 1,500. So I get 41.8 for that. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so now the next part here, it says it wants you to find the third side here, this b, and you can use Pythagorean theorem or trig. Most students like the Pythagorean theorem. That's the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So it's 1,000 squared plus b squared equals 1,500 squared. So we're solving for b. B squared equals 1,500 squared minus 1,000 squared. So get this number, and then like we were doing with law of cosines, you take a square root of this. So b equals the square root of 1,500 squared minus 1,000 squared. And this is in parentheses. Like you can't just undo the squares here. You have to actually do the calculation. Let it square first, and then take the square root here. This is round to the nearest foot. So that's 1,118 feet. Is that okay? Anything else to cover on that one?
No, I got that.
Okay. Moving on here. Okay. Yeah, we're in good shape here. We'll get through most of these, maybe all of them. A player is 50 yards. So we're doing that problem there. Let me grab this. Player is 50 yards from the end line. Okay, so they fill in the triangle. He spots the center of the goal at a 20-degree angle. How far does the ball have to travel to score? So they want D. Relative to this angle, you have the adjacent and the hypotenuse. The adjacent because it's next to, the hypotenuse because it's the longest side. So the cosine of 20 is the adjacent, 50 over D. To solve this, you could cross multiply, but what you'll find is that these two just swap positions. And D equals 50 over cosine 20. Round to one decimal place. So 53.2 degrees.
All right, I got that.
Okay, so you were building a bike ramp. Okay, we're building a bike ramp. Nobody rides their bike anymore. Okay. What's nice is here is they're putting all the numbers into this, so like we don't even need to read it. I mean, you could like the reading it would be to take the numbers and be like, oh, that goes there and that goes there, but it's already set up for you. So relative to theta, the what you're trying to figure out is this is opposite in this hypotenuse. So sine of theta equals 3/8. So theta equals the sine inverse of 3/8, and we're rounding to one decimal place. All right, did you get a number for that?
I just got 22.
Yep, 22 degrees. Agreed. Okay, we're on to the next one. Next one here is a satellite dish. Okay. How long are the guide wires? Okay. Sorry, let me get to where I can snip this in. There that is. Okay. Great. Okay, so a satellite dish is being installed and they want to know how long the guide wires are. That's this length here. This 20 is really this right here. This is a right triangle. So which side of the triangle are we solving for? Can you see that? Which one
The
we're solving?
hypotenuse.
Hypotenuse. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and b are the legs. 8 squared plus 20 squared equals c squared. So you're just doing this. C equals the square root of 8 squared plus 20 squared. And this is round to one decimal place. That's 20.5 feet. What they're trying to emphasize here is you can sort of mix between Pythagorean theorem questions and sine, cosine, tangent questions. All right, so we're moving to the next question here. It's the Cornhole Question, which is a game. Have you ever played Cornhole before?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we don't really care what's up here. They just want you to find the angle, and this is actually irrelevant. You have a triangle, and you're trying to find the angle. Relative to this angle, you have the opposite and the adjacent. So tangent of the angle is 12/48. Okay, opposite over adjacent. So the angle is equal to the tan inverse of 12/48. And if you didn't know, you can reduce this. Like when I entered this in the calculator, I just entered as 1/4. Just to save a few keystrokes, but it doesn't really save you much, especially if you reduce it incorrectly. But the one decimal place here is 14.0 degrees. Okay, great. Last question here that I can see. This will definitely close us out for today. Devin is flying a kite. Devin is flying a kite. Okay. He let out a 350-foot feet of kite string. The string makes an angle of 60 degrees with the ground. So this is one of those a little bit odd here. Like he's standing here and the kite's up here. So the 350 is actually this, which it's rare when you know that, but I mean, the reason is that the wind is pushing it over, and that's why it's at an angle. I mean, this is right. So they want to know how high is the kite. So relative to this angle, that's opposite, and that's the hypotenuse, opposite and hypotenuse. So the sine of 62 degrees is h over 350. 350 multiplies sine 52, 350 sine 62 equals the height of the kite. So 350 times sine d 62, and that's 309.0 feet. Make sure that's correct.
Yeah, it is.
Great. Thanks again for scheduling. It's a great place for us to stop. I'll send you the notes and the screen recording out shortly. Thanks again.
All right. Thank
See you
you.
next time.
Bye.
Okay, bye now.